Morning, I'm Richard Morgan, the founder of Chief Disruptor Defence. Welcome and thank you for joining us this afternoon for this webinar on working with defence as an SME. I'll shortly hand over to today's speaker, but firstly, I'll briefly cover some admin points. So today's session will be in two parts. Firstly, the pre-prepared remarks, which will last for about 15 to 20 minutes, and we'll then move on to the Q&A part of the session, which on this occasion will be on the record. So today's session is on working with defence as an SME. So some of you may be aware the SDR reported that today much of the best innovation is found in the private sector, while the increasing prevalence of dual-use technologies has widened the net of potential suppliers that can contribute to defence outcomes. There's a deep range of partners outside defence that it must work with, that it must work to bring in alongside its prime contractors, from technology and innovation startups and scale-ups to small and medium-sized enterprises and private investors, without which the step change in industrial productivity would not be possible. So that's what the SDR reported. To talk to us a bit more about what defence is doing about it and how you can engage with defence to that end, it gives me great pleasure today to introduce our guest speaker, Catherine Proudlove, who is the SME Outreach and Policy Lead for the Ministry of Defence. Catherine will share her perspective on the current policy landscape, outline the key areas where the MOD is directing its investments, and highlight new opportunities emerging within the supply chain. She will also offer some practical advice on finding the right support, navigating available frameworks, and helping suppliers make the most of their engagement with MOD procurement. So Catherine, welcome to this Chief Disruptor Defence webinar, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Morning, everybody. There's some familiar names on the list of people who are already in attendance already, which is nice. Nice to know that there's friends in the room. To those of you who don't know me, we're going to be best of friends. To those of you who already know me, I'm sure we will carry on being friends after this, which is great. So I'm going to chat to you, and do not fear, there are not hundreds of slides. There's 4, and this is one of them. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the policy position and where we're moving to in relation to small businesses, and then it will be lots of practical advice that you can use to help you in your engagement with the defence supply chain. And I won't be talking just about directly contracting with MOD, it will be about further supply chain opportunities as well. So let's start with the policy overview. The focus on small businesses is certainly shifting across government. In March of this year, the Prime Minister announced 2.5 GDP to be spent in defence, and also announced the SME hub, which has gone through several iterations and is now known as the Defence Office for Small Business Growth. We are hopeful that that name will not change again, because many changing names causes an awful lot of confusion. But if you hear anybody say SME Office, SME Hub, Defence Office, Office for Small Business Growth, all of that is me, and that's what I'm currently setting up, spending an awful lot of time working with people to get that set up. And actually, MinDRI gave an update on the office in October and was able to make public how much progress we'd made on working with small businesses and trade associations to give wider small business representation to set up the operational model for the office. And the intention there was to really focus on what small businesses wanted MOD to provide to them. And after we collated all of the thoughts and ideas, there's 4 areas that small businesses want us to provide. So small businesses want us to provide guidance and support to shape requirements and the landscape for small businesses. They want us to provide advice both into MOD and into our large suppliers about how they should be behaving and what commercials they should be thinking about, and into smaller businesses as well, to do things like this, provide advice and guidance on how you can engage with the Ministry of Defence. They would like services that allow small businesses to grow, So things around investment, financial support, business development, connecting small businesses to the right areas to allow that to happen. And they also want the office to have real teeth to be able to make a difference and to be able to operate with authority. And we've titled that Direct and Assure, where we will provide services that have a real impact and are far-reaching and support things that are laid out in the SDR, in the industrial strategy. And that is actually echoed really well in some of our recent publications. So the modern industrial strategy, although not purely defence focused, wider government talks explicitly to the £2.5 billion increase in spend with small businesses in defence. And the defence industrial strategy talks to small businesses nearly 100 times and mentions the office explicitly as well. But why is this important? Well, it's important because ultimately the strongest supply chain wins a conflict. It's not, I was going to say it's not about anything else. It is about other things, but ultimately the strongest, most resilient, most diverse supply chain will win whichever conflict we find ourselves in. And unfortunately, that is something that we have to give genuine thought and consideration towards. And we also know that there are things that we have to overcome to make that happen. These have been laid out across all government departments by Cabinet Office, and all government departments are directed to think about and look at a lack of market engagement. The fact that small businesses aren't aware of opportunities, that procurement processes are incredibly complex and can sometimes be unconsciously biased. Unfortunately, that is very true. Requirements are poorly written. They might be too vague. They might be too prescriptive. Financial thresholds, especially in defence, can be absolutely ridiculous, further compounded by the need for insurances that are incredibly high. Tender timescales can be too long, too short. They're never really optimum for smaller businesses. Responses can be very resource intensive. Tender invitations generally lack opportunity to provide innovation. Risk allocation is terrible. Mod is incredibly risk adverse, and we are very, very good at pushing all of our risk onto our larger suppliers, who in turn push it further down, and we don't do much to support that. Our terms and conditions are fabled as being incredibly complex, and they certainly are. And another area that we're not very good at is providing feedback that isn't any way useful. If people get feedback at all, which is something I am particularly animated by, because getting feedback right isn't difficult. You just have to do your job properly and it will happen as part of your work. So they're the things that we are looking at addressing in the office, wrapped into those 4 different areas. I don't know if anybody else can see the slides anymore. It's no bother if you can't. But on the next slide, my little blockbuster board is going to lead us through the next session. And these are the kind of questions I have small businesses coming to talk to me about all the time. So I'm going to talk to each of these questions. First one up, what does Mod buy? We buy everything. And when I say everything, I mean nail varnish for horses to nuclear submarines and everything in between. If you can think of it, we buy it, guaranteed. Current items of interest are, and this is something I checked just 40 minutes ago, we are currently looking for extreme cold weather clothing, salvaged aircraft doors, X-ray cabins, flexible hose manufacturing, and calibration of tooling are just 5 examples of things we are looking for right now, of the 60 or 70 opportunities that are currently live today, and that will change again tomorrow. So we buy everything. But where on earth can you find out about these opportunities? Now, this comes with a bit of a health warning. About a year and a half ago, the answer was really simple. I would just say you go to the Defence Sourcing Portal and everything is live there. And that advice is still true. But it now comes with a couple of health warnings. So indulge me for a moment whilst I take us back in time. Procurement Reform Act went live in February of this year. And within the Procurement Reform Act, it checks something called the Central Digital Platform. The central digital platform was intended to be live at the same time as the legislation, with the idea that the central digital platform would become a one-stop shop for all government opportunities, so that it was all in the same place and small businesses didn't have to look in different spaces for opportunities. Gets slightly more complicated because they also talk about Find a Tender, which is already live, and there is now a real confusion across government and across industry as well about where you should be looking. So advice that I am giving to people at the moment is to still use the defence sourcing portal, because I can guarantee that defence opportunities are there, and also to have a look at the central digital platform as well, so that you can see cross-government opportunities. If you can work in defence, because we buy so much stuff, chances are that you can also work in other government sectors as well. There'll be some crossover somewhere. So I advise having a look at both, which completely contradicts the idea of the legislation to make things easier. But I am remiss to tell people just to look at the central digital platform, because I can't guarantee that at the moment all defence opportunities are there. So have a look at the defence sourcing portal and register for the central digital platform as well, so that you can see all of the opportunities. My apologies that is 2 places to look, but at least then I can guarantee that you're catching everything in one space. I would also recommend that you don't sign in to the defence sourcing portal. The second you sign in, your view will be really narrowed. When you create your account, you get the opportunity to select some common procurement vocabulary codes, some CPV codes that best describe your business, and that's great. It's meant to be a really helpful tool for narrowing down opportunities and making it easy to look through stuff. Unfortunately, that system is really inefficient, because as a commercial officer, when I'm uploading an opportunity onto the defence sourcing portal, I can only choose one code. The chances of me hitting the same code out of the thousands and thousands and thousands that are on there that you selected when you signed on to the defence sourcing portal is so incredibly slim that it means that people can be on the defence sourcing portal for months and months and months and months and months, and they never get anything come their way via email to say, this opportunity might interest you. So I recommend 10 minutes once a week. Instead of signing into the defence sourcing portal, clicking the massive button on the front that says view all opportunities and have a look there. Flick through them, use the search functionality to look for keywords. It will prove much more fruitful than waiting for an email to come through. Again, not hugely efficient, but I have learnt over the last 2 years in this job that the system itself isn't great. And people can be much more successful if they just take 10 minutes to just have a flick through and see what's there. So, how do I become a MOD approved supplier? You don't. We don't have lists. We don't have a set thing that you must do to become a MOD approved supplier. There is no such thing as a MOD approved supplier. There may be people that have worked with MOD for a really long time and they carry a MOD badge on some of the work that they do. Or they use the icon in some way, which MOD may or may not be aware of, but there is no badge of honour that says you are MOD approved. So anybody who is peddling that to you, they might not be completely accurate in what they're saying, and just interrogate that a little bit, try and understand what it is that they are offering that they believe makes you a MOD approved supplier. We have competition, and we are open to hearing from all suppliers, not just MOD approved ones, because they do not exist. So where can you get support? Defence is difficult, it is complex, it is huge, it is slow. But the great news is that there's lots of support out there, which sometimes can make things a little bit more complicated because there's so much choice and so many options. So some areas of support that might be of interest to you. Trade associations and groups like this can offer you support by connecting you into MOD and representing your voice and bringing you within a community of like-minded people where you can work together. Trade associations also offer training packages Supply Chain 21 is offered by ADS. Fit for Defence is offered by Make UK Defence as two examples that might be of interest to you. The regional defence and security clusters also can provide training, support, networking, and they have a voice into the Ministry of Defence. Our strategic partners, so that is the likes of Airbus, Kinetic, Boeing, Babcock, they all have someone called an SME champion that I work alongside, and they are currently developing training packages and support packages for smaller businesses to help them within the defence supply chain. There's also the Defence Supplier Capability Development Programme, tricky acronym, the DSCDP. That is a pilot that's currently running about taking small businesses and giving them bespoke business development through Grant Thornton. That is in its second year, and that's proving successful, although the numbers are quite small, but that might be something for you to investigate as that programme runs on. There's also the British Business Bank, and then things like local councils. I've been working recently with Dudley and with Greater Manchester and with Liverpool, and all of the local councils that I've come in contact with so far have growth hubs and growth communities for small businesses, and they are really eager to grow into the defence space. So that might be of interest too if you haven't contacted them at all. Then there are also things on the mod side. So there's things like Battle Lab, UK Defence Innovation. They are particularly focused on the innovation element of mod, and UK Defence Export as well, all exist under the mod umbrella to help further support small businesses. There's also bespoke frontline support. So I know Army and RAF are currently developing specialist small business support, and Navy had some small business support which is currently under review. The other thing that causes an awful lot of confusion across the small business landscape are frameworks, mostly because framework, much like the word prime, is a word that is used to mean many, many different things to many different people. So it's really, really important that when someone uses the word prime or someone uses the word framework, that you have an agreed definition. When small businesses come to me about frameworks, they are coming to talk to me about a commercial agreement that has shared terms and conditions, where there is a small marketplace where someone will come out with contract opportunities. There'll be a mini competition and the contract will then be awarded. That is what a framework is. Some people think JOSCAR is a framework, and it is not. Some people refer to a lot of information organizations as frameworks, and they are not. We are talking about commercial frameworks and how they can help you win business. So where can you find them? The easiest place to find frameworks is on Crown Commercial Services. They are constantly updating their frameworks and supporting small businesses to get involved. And the great thing about Crown Commercial is that they are incredibly well staffed with very knowledgeable people. They have a telephone number that you can call to talk to them and say, what framework should I be on? How should I apply? When will these frameworks be renewing? And I can get involved in them. And they are also the first port of call for the Ministry of Defence when we have a procurement. We will interrogate the frameworks first. So use Crown Commercial as a way to help get into frameworks and develop your understanding there. Great. I think I'm just checking my notes now to make sure I've told you, but there's two more things. So this isn't on my Blockbuster run, but two things that might be of interest to you, two comms channels. So the Defence Industrial Joint Council is, they have something called a comms forum. The next one is happening tomorrow, actually, and anybody can join that. And from that comms forum, you will hear from the National Armaments Director. On occasion, there'll be ministers and Secretary of State on there. DGs run that call as well. So you'll hear really high level strategic information about mod and mod procurement, and you are welcome to join that call. There is a link with a form that you can fill in to register to become part of that, and I will find that in the background and pop that. Always, does the chat work, Richard?
So the chat's been disabled,
Okay.
but we can send anything out afterwards.
I'll ping it to you in an email and then it can go out to everybody. And if you're interested in joining that forum, that might be useful to you. And there's also our LinkedIn channel that we use to push out key messaging and draw attention to events that are happening. So I was chatting to Strap Command this morning. They have an event that I can't talk too much about right now, but sounds really interesting for small businesses, with an opportunity to then take the initial work and scale up afterwards. That will be promoted out through our LinkedIn channel as a way to make it more openly available to smaller businesses. So that LinkedIn channel is called Defence Procurement. That might be an interesting source of information for you as well. Would you mind flicking onto the next slide, please? Now, I am really super conscious that I have spent a little bit of time covering an awful lot of ground and giving you an awful lot of information. But that QR code will take you to my corner of the internet where all of that information is captured. So you can find links to the Defence Sourcing Portal. There's links to all of our strategic partners. And those links don't just go to their front page, they go to their specialist small business page, which is staffed by the SME champions. So you can engage with them, you can chat to them about getting involved in the supply chain. There's information about frameworks, there's information about other parts of MOD like DSTL, UKDI, all of that kind of good stuff. There's also an update there on the Office for Small Business Growth that might be of interest to you. Or if you just want to revisit and go through in slower time, it's all there as well. At the bottom of that page, there's also my contact email address. It looks like a multi-user because it is, but there's only me and Eleanor in the team. So although it's a multi-user, it comes through to us, and we are endeavouring to respond to you as quickly as possible to answer any questions if the information that we've got there doesn't scratch the itch at all, or you come across something that you think I would be interested in knowing. Maybe you come across some poor behaviour. Maybe you come across an opportunity that you applied for and you didn't quite get the feedback that you should have done. Anything like that that you think is worth flagging to me that I can then get involved with and talk to people on my side, very happy to do that as well. And that can all be done through the multi-user. Eventually, when the office is established in January, there will be a much slicker contact process. It will be a lot less labour intensive for small businesses and will be a lot easier, and will make it much quicker for me to be able to respond to you as well. That is not live yet, but it will come through the procurement at MOD, my internet pages. That will all be there ready to go. So maybe check in again in January, see what changes have been made. Now, conscious I've covered an awful lot of ground there, and it will have generated questions. There, my multi-users there, if anybody wants to capture it. It is also at the bottom of the internet page if useful. But that internet page covers a whole host of things. I'm happy to chat or take questions as required, or I can go away. I don't mind.
Thanks for that, Catherine. So we've got a few questions that have come in, and I'm sure that there'll be some more coming in as we continue the conversation. So firstly, one I can answer is, are we going to be circulating a transcript of this session? No, not a transcript, but it is being recorded. We'll then upload the recording to our website and send out an email once that's been done, so you can watch it again at your leisure and or share it with colleagues who were unable to join this afternoon. So the next question is from Canon Peter Bruinvels, who is the Armed Forces Covenants Lead at Kent County Council. But he's asking a question on behalf of an SME colleague who wants to know how he can get his first contract with the MOD when he's never worked with the MOD before, or should he bid and work back to back with someone who already works with the MOD?
So the answer is that you can do either. You don't have to have previous mod experience to work with mod. There is no policy that states that. The issue is that sometimes some of my commercial colleagues can get a little bit specific and unnecessarily so. They might say you must have 2 years of experience and your examples must be defence based. If you come across something like that and you know that actually you could satisfy that requirement, that is where using my email address is really useful, because I can then go directly into those commercial officers and go, are you sure about that? Is that what you mean? Or have you just copied and pasted that from the last 15 requirements that you've written? And we need to think about this again. And then I can leverage that to see if there's room to get you added into the tendering process. You can work with other suppliers and do consortium bids. That's absolutely fine. Can take a little bit of work and be a bit labour intensive, but mod is really comfortable to receive consortium bids as long as there is a clear lead identified and your tender details which company will be delivering which bit of the tender response. That's not a problem at all. And then you can also look at doing work within the supply chain. 80% of our spend goes through the supply chain. So use those strategic partners as well to help you out with that.
Thank you. Next question from Ted Curtis from NetScout, who asks, is the SME definition still 250 employees and £500 million turnover? We do not satisfy this condition, so does that leave us to compete alongside the prime contractors?
So the SME definition was reshaped in the procurement reform legislation, and we took the EU definition that we were using previously and turned it into pound sterling. So currently we are working on 250 heads or less, 44 million turnover or less. And then the bit that people sometimes aren't aware of is independent ownership. You can't be a small company that's 100 heads with a turnover of 36 million but be owned by IBM. That does not make you an SME. That makes you part of IBM. And that bit is really, that can be quite tricky. I've had some very difficult conversations with companies that are convinced that they are SMEs because in the UK there's only 6 of them, but they're owned by a massive multi-billion pound company in the US. So that independent ownership bit is really tricky. There is a bit of leeway in that definition. Sometimes for 1 year, maybe 2, a small business might earn more, or they might have to hire a few extra people and that takes them over the 250 cap because they're going through a surge of work, but then they drop down again. So we do have a 2 to 3 year grace period where a company might be slightly over and then they drop down again, but they maintain their SME status. So if, for example, you click over the 250 heads, we will still count you as an SME for 2 years after that in case there is that fluctuation, because bouncing between the two could be really disruptive and we don't want to do that.
Thank you. So next question from Patrick Ken of SD Maritime, who asks, am I right to say that council business gateway services and the regional enterprise agencies can help SMEs in defence?
They are 2 organisations that I do not know. They are new to me, but I can't see any reason why they wouldn't. All of the contact I've had with councils over the last few months has been very defence positive. They recognise that it's a growing market and they're keen to get their businesses involved. My assumption would be yes, but I can't confirm or deny.
Next one from Sharon Jones, who from the Royal Navy.
From the Navy Parish, yeah.
Do frameworks get retired or closed down, or does each new framework add to the things to check?
So yes, old frameworks do get shut down. They are time bound. There are some tech services, being a really good example, that renew every year or every couple of years and they just get a new number. So I don't know what we're on at the moment, maybe tech services 5, tech services 6, somewhere around there. Some of them will last for 3 years and then get shut down. Some of them will go on year and then the number of frameworks will extend. All of their notices should be going through either the central digital platform or the sourcing portal, depending on if it's defence or not. Yeah, the frameworks are a beast. They take an awful lot of work. So a yes and a no there, Sharon. We do shut them down. However, frameworks, there always seems to be more frameworks. That number always seems to be growing. I'll just do a quick check now to find out how many there are. Carry on, Richard. What's the next question?
Okay, thank you. Next one, Kieran Wilkinson, consultants at both small fonts, MMCG Consulting, asked about a point of contact for UKDI, noting that they're in flux and under restructuring work with NADG. Is it live yet?
Yes, they are in flux. Do I have point of contact? There's currently 106 frameworks. That number's actually gone down. It was 121 a little while ago, but it will go up again. I don't have a mailbox or contact right now, but I can certainly find one. That's no problem at all. And then I can give it to you by email, Richard, if that would work.
Yep.
Let me write that down so I don't forget.
Just while you write, I'll pose the next question, which is from Andy Watman, who is a defence consultant. Does the MAD have a way of measuring the percentage of contracts let to SMEs?
Yes, we do. It's also published every year as well. I can add that link as well. Let me get the right name for you. It is Trade, Industry and Contracts is the name of the publication. And that has all of the SME spend percentages in there as well.
Great, thank you. Next one from Julian Roberts from Curious Bluefish. We have had specific interest from senior naval officers in our AI solution, but are having trouble getting any engagement with the primes involved in the contract. Can you help?
Yes, I can. It sounds like there's already a contract established, which must mean that there's a contract number or commercial officer. If you want to ping over the details with your ask, I'm happy to see if there's anybody I can go and purposefully irritate to get that moving forward for you.
Next one from Simon Preston from Shorevine. Might Catherine comment on how she sees SMEs engaging with the new defence cyber certification process and what is being done by the MAD to help SMEs navigate this?
So I've had one brief on this, and large businesses have spoken to me as well to say that they are worried. And by large, I mean our strategic partners. So, you know, Airbus, that kind of size. I am also concerned that this will cause a barrier for small businesses. I think it will be a real imperative for the office to be able to offer support and appropriate signposting, because it's a huge number of things. I want to say about 130 additional checks on top of Cyber Essentials, because there's different levels. And apologies if you're all super well versed in this already, but there's 3 different levels, and the checks within each level, the higher up you go, the more checks there are. But there's also no crossover in those checks. The checks for level 3 will be completely different to level 2, and I am very concerned that that will put small businesses off even more than they already are with applying for defence opportunities. So yes, it's very much on my radar. I'm already starting to pull together tools and things that I think will be helpful. And I need to get really well versed in understanding how to support small businesses. So the team that have put the certification together, Phil and I are chatting regularly now to try and see what I can do to offer help, because small businesses are certainly going to need it. They're going to have loads of questions. I know I have, and I don't need to go through the certification. So yeah, it's a worry, but one we're going to try and support small businesses with.
Thank you. So next question is from Tim Moran of Cascade Aviation and Marine, who asks, we are a micro SME with unique defence capabilities which are in service with NATO partner forces. Is there a defined mechanism which we can utilise to bring these capabilities to the attention of the commands to raise their awareness of the art of the possible?
So right now, there isn't. At the moment, there is a very clunky mechanism called Catherine Goes Out and Speaks to Her Friends and Tries to Find Something That Fits Really Well. We recognise that that is perhaps not the most efficient method of doing business. So the office is currently in the process, have a talk about it later on today actually, around setting up a network across Mod where businesses like the one you just described can come in with the work that they are doing or things that they know would work well in defence, and I can then dock them into the right place really quickly so that they can then share their information to raise awareness. So it's not there yet, but it will be there.
Thank you. Next question from Patrick Ken of SD Maritime. Will or does the Defence Office for Small Business Growth have regional offices across the UK, or will it be focused in the Bristol, London area?
So we will not be having a physical office. We will be looking to provide regional presence by leveraging things like the regional defence clusters that already exist, by working with local councils to provide training to council staff that can then specialise in defence. We don't have the resource to be able to put boots on the ground in every region of the UK. So instead, we're leveraging what already exists and upskilling those people so that they can talk to defence and signpost appropriately.
Thank you. So a question that's come through, well, a couple that have come through by email. One on the DIJC, is security clearance needed?
I think that there is a security clearance requirement. I don't know what the level is off the top of my head. Apologies, but that will be in the form. Let me just check. Okay, carry on.
And one from James Roddis, Black Bear Consulting, who asked, how are the recent changes in the US influencing how the UK might further speed up the procurement process, and how do we move to a more problem rather than requirement focused approach?
So the restructuring the NAD, I think, will answer that, because they are focusing on delivering problem statements. I think that will be our answer there around changing the approach with the requirements. And I can't remember which document it was, it might be the SDR, where we talked to new procurement timeframes to speed up our to speed up our procurement and escape the quagmire that we're in at the moment, where it takes 3 years to get anything onto contract.
Thank you. And then another question. You mentioned that JOSCAR isn't a framework. What is it?
So it's confusing. That's what JOSCAR is. So JOSCAR is a repository that holds information about suppliers. So your insurance certificate, your cyber essentials certificate, all of those kinds of things. It will tell large suppliers who are called confusing. So in my world, they're suppliers. In JOSCAR world, they're buyers. So Airbus, Kinetic, BAE, Boeing, and Mod, they are buyers, and they will be able to look at all of the suppliers that JOSCAR has in its database to get a feel of what the market's like, and also to understand if they have everything in place that they need, like their insurance. It is a way of speeding up procurement because you don't have to do all of the commercials. You can just click the button and see that they have suppliers have everything in place. What JOSCAR is not is a business development platform that will say, here's an opportunity here, you should apply. This opportunity might be good for you. It doesn't offer that service. What it offers is a view for large buyers to look at suppliers and go, you've got everything I need you to come and do this work for me.
Thank you. So another question from Andy Watman. Is there an appetite within the MOD to discuss risk apportionment or sharing with SMEs?
Yes, there is. We recognise that our risk avoidance, love avoiding a bit of risk, it's our favourite thing to do. But we also recognise that that's completely unsustainable, and we need to stop that behaviour, and we need to figure out how we can write terms and conditions in such a way where risk isn't passed down, which is how a lot of our risk ends up with small suppliers. You will find that the terms and conditions for a Cat A contract will get pushed right down to a tier 5, tier 6 small business supplier, and suddenly they're the ones holding all the risk. And that isn't on. We can't allow small businesses to do that. That's simply unfair. So I'm currently working with the SME champions to understand what we can do to make changes there with a focus on that risk. Yeah, it's a live conversation right now.
Good. Thank you. Next question from Stuart Williams of East Midlands Reserve Forces and Cadets Association, who asked two questions, or two parts of the question. Will you be giving similar briefings to the defence and security clusters, or can the recording be made available to them? So I'll answer the latter part first, though. As far as we're concerned, yes, the recording can go out to, or be shared with anyone who will gain value from it. And similarly, if anyone wishes to join any of our briefings, webinars in future, more the merrier as far as we're concerned. But Catherine, I don't know if you want to add anything to the question on whether you're going to be giving a similar briefing to the clusters.
Yes, very happy for the clusters to have this information. Many of them will have heard this brief already, so this information won't be new to them.
Yeah, someone, Sharon Jones, commenting that one of the clusters had a similar event on the 19th of November with similar and expanded themes. Useful, thank you. Great. I think that pretty much has given everyone the opportunity to ask their questions. So thank you to all the questions, and thank you to Catherine for answering them so honestly. So we're finishing a few minutes early, but I would just like to take this opportunity to quickly highlight that our next defence activities will be, well, our next one is next week, another webinar on the Army's Too Good to Leave campaign. So that's taking place on Tuesday evening, principally aimed at Army reservists. But one of the topics we'll be covering will include the new Defence Skills Passport, which is intended to act as a central digital record of an individual's skills, which should enable smoother identification and transfer between the armed forces and the defence industry. So that might be of interest, particularly if you are a reservist, if you're listening to this, or you have any reservists working within your teams. And then in March, we're running both the Defence Sustainability Conference and also, for the third time, Defence AI Connect with the Defence AI Centre. So if your company's interested in either having a presence at those events or in us running an activity with you, please get in touch with the partnerships team to discuss partnership opportunities. And just a reminder, you can register for any of our forthcoming activities via the activities page on our website. And if you'd like to be kept up to date with what we've got coming up and also other defence updates of interest, please do follow me on LinkedIn. Thank you for your time, Catherine. I'm glad we managed to get through to the end of it without completely losing you, even though we can no longer see you. But we managed to answer everyone's questions, so that's the main thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Lovely to chat to you all.